सा फर्क है कुछ होने में और बहुत कुछ होने में। इतना सा फर्क है एक बार सोच के छोड़ देने में और लग के कर दिखाने में। मान लेने में कि जिंदगी ऐसे ही कटेगी और सुबह 4 बजे उठ के सोचने में ये अभी तो बस शुरुआत है। किसी मैगजीन को हाथ में लेने में और उसी मैगजीन के कवर पेज पे होने में इतना सा ही तो फर्क है। वीआईपी सीट में और उसकी पिछली सीट में इतना सा ही तो फर्क है। वो जिसका मैदान ही खुला आसमान है वही कल जमीन पर तो था। पूछोगे तो बताएगा वो पंछी ये एक दायरे में सिमटने में और पूरी दुनिया को दायरा बनाने में बस इतना सा फर्क है। इतना कितना है? इतना है या इतना है? जो नापेगा वो जाने कि जहां धरती और आसमान मिलते हैं ना नकुर से दूर अगर मगर शायद से दूर वहां भी दोनों में फर्क बस इतना सा है। धरती और 7वें आसमान में फर्क बस इतना सा है। ये एक अंतर प्रेरणा है। ये हमारी आपकी हम सब की अंतर प्रेरणा है। एक कदम, एक छलांग, एक बाजी, एक गहरी सांस और एक ललकार खुली हवाओं में कि हाँ मैं बना हूं उन फिजाओं के लिए, कि हाँ मैं बना हूं उन ऊंचाइयों के लिए जो ऊंची तो बहुत है पर नामुमकिन भी नहीं, क्योंकि मुमकिन और नामुमकिन में बस इतना सा फर्क है। धूप छांव में फर्क बस इतना सा है। तो बस चलिए फ्रेंचाइज इंडिया के साथ ये फर्क मिटा देते हैं। फ्रेंचाइज इंडिया, 20 years of ideas.
Friends, a very good afternoon to all of you. I welcome and thank you all for participating on the Investor Advantage session on this Thursday afternoon. I'm Sonia Chaudhary, founder, MD, Franberg Brands. And the session, friends, as we all know, is a session about how we start a business. So India being a shopkeeper nation, we all understand and acknowledge that every home we have somebody who has an inspiration of owning or starting a business at some point in their lives. And being an investor-centric and a franchise-focused company, this was the very purpose of Franchise India, where Franchise India wanted to make every Indian self-reliant through entrepreneurship. And this being the foundation of our company, our platform of Franchise India in the last 24 odd years has been working and helping prospective franchisees like yourself to research franchise opportunities, at the same time also evaluate from the various options that you see and equally learn from the industry experts across all sectors. And I'm proud to say, millions of business buyers have trusted our platform of Franchise India to be able to research opportunities from a unit franchisee to a master franchisee to a multi-unit franchisee, from many international brands and domestic brands across all industries. And we also had the privilege of working with more than 78,000 investors to give them a guided solution where we combined our industry knowledge and experience that we had gathered over these years. So friends, while we'll take you through a short presentation on how can one assess and take an informed decision of buying a business, that's the very premise of this webinar, and that can help you understand and assess how can you gift yourself or somebody in your family or loved one. And before we do that, I would like to also understand our audience, which I see is still joining in. And so just a warm-up session, friends. We'd like to understand from you, and since all of you who have joined in are looking at buying a business, you might have either decided what category or at least decided that you want to go ahead with the business. So my first question, friends, and this is something which is the very first foundation for anybody who's looking at buying a business is, the timeline you want to decide when you start the business, right? So that's the first thought I would say that comes to everybody's mind. And a lot of you might be people who are either professionals working, or you could be somebody who's already existing franchise owner. We also work with a lot of investors who have taken business from us or directly from the brands also in the past. So help me in understanding, friends, a little bit about yourself and my question to all of you would be, how many of you have decided what timeline you want to start the business? And when you do that, also please write the name of the city that you want to start that from. And please go on the Q&A box. That's the only way, friends, we can interact. And more we engage and interact with each other, more we would know. And let's make it very, very engaging is my only request to all of you. So once again, I say, I'll request all of you, please go in the Q&A box. Just type how many days, how many months, year, even if it is a time frame of 1 year that you're thinking of buying a business, please go ahead, put in the Q&A box. And if you already, my second question, while you answer, and I see Mayuri ji already answering, 6 to 7 months is what you are looking at starting a business. And Mayuri ji is from Bangalore. And we also have Mr. Lakshay Madan wanting to start the business in next 4 to 6 months of time frame. So welcome Mayuri ji, Lakshay ji, and friends, keep writing in. It will help me to understand the urgency for you to start the business. And while you do that, please mention the city. And my second question is, if you already have an industry in mind or a category that you have shortlisted, be it retail, furniture, services, education, and go even deep down, say, I'm looking for something in preschool. I'm looking for something in the service industry. I'm looking for something in the laundry. I'm looking for something in maybe online education. I'm looking for something in maybe fintech services. So whatever that category or a specific industry that you have in mind, please also do that. And welcome, Gaurav. You are from Pune and you're looking for starting a business within 6 months of time frame, and you are a sales trainer. That's a very good profile, and especially people who come from marketing and sales, they become a very good profile for franchisee. So very helpful to see that coming in. So guys, keep writing in. I'd like to know more and more about you. And Manish Mittalji, welcome. It's a near time that you're looking at. You're not sure what industry you want to consider. So great. So I'm getting a lot of mixed response. Some of you are sure on the timeline. Some of you want to invest. You want to start a business, but not sure. So you can keep writing in, as I take you through the presentation. And I will also like to say, when you look at entrepreneurship or starting a businesses, that you want to in your life, and when you look at the various options, you will find there are many, many options, and there might be no limit, I would say, in terms of what business ideas you might want to pursue. But if you want to start something which comes with an established name, a business model in place, a franchise model is considered the very best fit. And there are only 3 ways of starting a business. It is a startup. आप अपना खुद कुछ शुरू कर सकते हैं. Many people do that. Or you buy something which is already existing in the market. कोई चलता चला है business आप खरीद के आप उसको आगे लेके जाते हैं. Third is you buy a name which is tried and tested model, and this is what we call franchising. So at Franchise India, we are start your own business specialist. So we can help you absolutely when you're looking at a new business you want to start, and also we can help you to buy an existing business, which in our terminology we call that resales of business. So somebody who's keen can also reach out to us. So, why Franchise India? Because all these options can be explored through our website, through our exhibitions that we do, both virtual and I would say physical events that we do all across. But having a mentor, can be very, very valuable in the entire business buying process, or business buying decision, because as advisor, brings in a lot of experience, they bring in insights, and most important, they're able to align your interest, and they are able to create that balance between yourself and the prospective company that you're exploring. And as a potential buyer or a franchisee, I can also understand and appreciate you might be finding it very, very challenging where to start. And every time I do this, I find a lot of people who come and say, I want to start something, but I don't know how to start, where to start, what options are right for me, because there's so many options, there's so many companies which almost, sometimes look very, very similar in terms of their offering. So how do we, get started with that? And this is where the advisor, comes in. They help you align your interest. They work with you on giving you a lot of inputs, insights. They give you understanding on the viability of the business model, and also help you underline maybe the strategies, the timeline for your path of starting your business. I was working with one investor very, very closely. He came to our webinar about 2 weeks back, 3 weeks back rather. This was last Thursday. And I happened to have a call with him just after the webinar. I understood what he wanted. He was a professional working in IT company. company. He was looking at starting a business with an investment of about 80 odd lakhs. He wanted to do it. And I suggested, even when that investment is big, you should not put the entire investment just in one business, and try to, create and, maybe a portfolio of like-minded business and mindset. And as I speak, he already took and finalized that business last week. So just in a span of 2 weeks, while he wanted to do that in 2 months' time, but he got the right opportunity. We got some good meetings lined up, and we told him, take your time to, do your own due diligence before you get started with it. Because January was the month, he said, by the end of January, I would like to get started. So I told him, if January is what you want to get started, you have to decide and start exploring now, so that by the time you hit the month, your business is already up and running. So timeline is very important if you want to start in, say, 4 months, 6 months time. So today is the time that you start exploring, you start meeting, you start exploring the opportunities based on the investment you want to make, the industry, the market. So we'll talk all about that in our presentation. And, one thing which is very important, why franchising? Because franchising creates a lot of intelligent synergies. When I say intelligent, it is intelligent because it is not the mind of, one company. It is synergies which come together, or I would say is a combined strength, so to say, of you as an investor or a franchise partner. And you have a big role to play because you're somebody who's playing in the business role. The entire operations are taken care by you. And while the brand, which is a franchisor, works on everything, which is systems, processes, giving you all technical know-how and make you or equip you to run the business and to have a business which is sustainable. So it requires the combined strength of both the stakeholders. Second, franchising cuts across every industry. This is one question I also come across many times. Which industry? Why that industry? Why not this? And which industry is doing well? While there are many new industries which come up, and especially the last 1.5, 2 odd years, we have seen new age businesses coming up, doing very well. Big demand, especially in the edtech space, EV space. There's a big demand which is coming up in this category. But franchising, if I have to, submit, it cuts across every single category. You will all agree. We have seen successful franchise companies across all sectors. Chahe food dekhe hum, and food maybe if you have to subcategorize. If I look at cafes, they're successful cafe companies operating. They are successful ice cream brands. They're successful, brands in the QSR segment which are running. Talk about services. Talk about retail. Every category you will find successful companies, leaders, and also a lot of emerging brands which are currently doing very, very well. So every business is good, is what I would say. But as an investor, as a prospective franchisee, you need to find your own fitment of what is correct for you, what is right for you, and which ideally should be based on a very integrated approach, which includes the investment you want to do, the market you're going, the experience that you hold, interest that you have. And as a brand, is also qualifying you. While you're qualifying companies, at the same time, even companies, franchisors are also qualifying whether you're the right fitment and you qualify to be a partner to run the day-to-day businesses. And this is the reason because the success, the failure of any business also impacts the working of that brand, their goodwill, their brand image. And there are also a few requirements sometimes the companies would take into consideration, for a franchisee, which means their maybe experience in certain cases is very, very important. While many businesses don't require people who come with similar industry experience. Having said that, about 35% community which is buying businesses in India, especially franchise businesses, are one who are first-time business buyers. So which means they don't come with any prior experience. And most of the times it is also not needed. But sometimes companies do come with a requirement where they need somebody who comes with an experience. Also, most importantly, your own involvement of time in the business is something which also companies consider. So, while there are many options, friends, that you can go across, see, but today business buyers, from my own experience and as I understand, I don't need just product information or details. I don't want to know name of brands. Even a kid today, a 10-year-old kid going to a mall or a high street would name a lot of companies that he would see around. So what a business buyer needs today is a lot of insights so that he's able to take an informed decision. And all of you, I'm sure somebody's already exploring a business. You've decided on the timeline. 60% of your buying cycle might have progressed by the time you reach a consultant like us, because information today is accessible, but what is not accessible is insights, so that you can take this decision which is right for you. So I'll request Kanika if you can put a presentation, and I'll take you through a small presentation on how you can assess yourself before you sign on that dotted line. And we have created a very integrated, holistic approach, which can help you take a qualitative analysis of potential scenarios and insights on what options to adopt. And while these are 5 assessment tools that we're talking about, even Franchise India, when we work with you closely and when we guide you, we also take and guide you and work with you to assess all these. So, very quickly, these assessment tools are your own self-assessment, which is the most important part of starting a business. Second is industry assessment, the industry that you want to choose, why that industry. Third is the market assessment, the market that you want to start the business, because every market might not be viable for that business, or the potential might not be large for that particular business or a category. It might be a new business getting started. Fourth is a peer-to-peer, which is the competitive analysis assessment that you have to do. And lastly is the brand that you have selected. You do a detailed in-depth analysis on that brand. So all these 5 assessment tools are the foundation for any prospective business buyers that can assist you to evaluate your level of fitment. That is very, very important. I'll repeat again, every brand is good, all categories, all industries are great, but what is right for you is something that requires a lot of working. So I'll take you through, what also becomes a part of these assessment tools. Can we go on the next slide, Kanik? So, as you see on this slide, these are about 25 odd points that we have put on this slide, and under all these assessment tools that you see, and all of you, either you can even take a screenshot, you can even do at this stage if you have selected or you're somewhere, close to what you want to buy. If you have a score of anything above 20, on these 25 points, just go and, keep ticking mark on this sheet. And if you score anything which is above 20, the opportunity is good and excellent, is what we say. Anything between 15 to 20 is good enough, but anything which is less than 15 is something we don't advise. We don't advise because this assessment or fitment might not be right for you. Maybe, it could be the brand itself, it could be the market that you want to open, it could be the industry itself, or it could be, maybe 2 or 3 of these assessment tools that you don't fare well. And if you don't, then you go back on the drawing board and work on this once again. So very quickly, I'll take you through all these assessment tools also. Now, starting with self, and this is something I always say is the most valuable tool. Everything starts with my own self, what I want to achieve, what my goals are. And this is a very valuable tool for any aspiring entrepreneur who wants to start a business. And typically the traits that you should start evaluating when you do the self-assessment is your own business skills, your experience, your knowledge, your interest, your investment appetite, and equally very, very important, the ability to take the risk and meet the challenges, right? So that's very, very important. So what entrepreneur mindset means, that is assessing what entrepreneurship means to you. It is a stage of self-actualization. What you do here is you align your life goals and you align your business goals. Because alone, working on the business goals will not help you achieve the goal if it is not aligned with what your life goals are all about. So this stage is all about self-discovery. Find out what you really like, passionate about, but equally, passion must translate to economic business sense. Alone passion will not make you successful in the business. So passion along with a economic business sense which the business can make. So these are 4 things, which is financial goal. 3 things I always remind people when you are looking at assessing the financial goal. 3 things you must look at. One is the timeline to achieve the financial goal. Kitne timeline mein aap achieve karna chahte hain, because your business that you're choosing must correspond to that timeline. 2 saal hai, 3 saal hai, 5 saal hai, 10 saal hai, 15 saal hai. That timeline is very, very important. Second is risk. What risk you want to take when you make that investment. That is also important to be understood, which means your risk appetite. Third is your return that you're expecting. So these 3 things are very important. The timeline you want to achieve the goal. Second, the risk appetite that you have, and the return that you're expecting, right? Now, when I say risk, sometimes it is very subjective, ki thoda lena hai, zyada lena hai. But to give you a thumb rule, any asset class that you invest today, there are only 3 fundamental goals of any investments we do. Any kind of investments. 3 ही आपके fundamental goal हैं, irrespective of what asset class you invest in. The very first goal for any investment is, safety. I want to make this money investment, but my goal is being very, very safe in that investment. Second is my goal is income. I want to, get some income from that investment. Third is growth. So apart from this, there can be no other fundamental goal of any asset class. Now, when we look at safety as my goal, when we look at safety, then my return would be low because my risk is also low. So anything which is safe will come with low risk. Low risk means that I'm getting low return. There is no other equation. Income means that I'm looking at business which comes with moderate risk, and also moderate return. I cannot have a business which comes with lowest risk and highest return. Any company which gives that kind of a commitment or announces something like that is fluking. There is nothing, and this equation can never work. It is always the way that I'm saying. If you're looking at growth, as a goal, then these businesses comparatively would come with, little higher risk, but equally rewarding. So which means higher risk, higher return. So that is one fundamental goal of looking at businesses. So you need to do that assessment yourself. Second is the capital that you want to invest. When I say capital, you also need to understand you don't have to leverage too much. Agar aapke paas 15 lakh hai, 20 lakh hai, 30 lakh hai, whatever money you have, try to invest within the means and avoid too much of loans. These loans sometimes build a lot of pressure on the ongoing businesses. And the biggest reasons why businesses fail is lack of financial management. And I've seen that happening, where people put the entire money they have, they take some loans, and they don't have even enough money for the first 4 or 5 months of operating expenses or working capital. That is what we call. So liquidity is very important. Even if you have to take that, ensure you don't take more than 20-25% of that loan component, right? Because your cost of capital sometimes becomes very, very high, right? And sometimes to calculate your return on investment also becomes difficult when your cost of capital is very high, right? Third is your time involvement, which is very important, especially when we talk about franchising. The reason franchising historically started, from the days of McDonald's, if I talk about, the only reason it started was because every business owner, wanted to have efficiencies coming in their unit performance, right? So when I say efficiencies at unit level, which means every single unit has to be efficient, and that could only happen when there was an owner sitting in the business, and this owner was the franchisee, right? So your time involvement is something which is very, very critical in most of the businesses. I would say about 95% of the businesses are franchisee-owned, franchisee-operated businesses globally. And why? Because 18% efficiencies come in when an owner is operating the business. Giving my own example, we used to run a company called Dosa Plaza, and that was the company, we worked for, we had the rights of that company. Franchise India had the right of this company for entire India except for Maharashtra. And we started one outlet which is still running. It has been about 17 odd years now, but that outlet in that location, that spot has been running for almost 16 odd good years. I have not seen many companies operating. Even the leading malls, you would see a lot of food brands, retail brands changing maybe every year. So this was one outlet that we had opened. We ran that company outlet for about 1.5, 2 odd years. But because, being a company, because, we were a brand, right? We didn't have too much of time involvement in day-to-day operations of the outlet. And gradually the outlet manager who owned, who used to operate that particular outlet, he came to us and he said, can I take this outlet over and run and operate? And from that day, it has been more than 10 odd years, must be 12 plus years already, that outlet started doing very well. The same location, same premise, same staff, but the performance grew, because now I had an owner who knew what was happening in the outlet. So your time involvement is very important. I would always emphasize on that. And lastly, any investments you do, all investments are done, keeping our future in mind. So anything that you do, you need to ensure that you're not putting your entire investment in one project or one business. And there should always be a plan or a plan B or a plan 2, which is your fallback plan, because anytime, the business also needs a lead time to come to optimum level, right? So you always have a fallback plan in the business. And a lot of people who survived the last 2 years and they were running maybe franchise or business because they had an alternate business, they could fall back upon. Second is industry assessment. This again is very, very important, because here you need to understand the underlying forces which are at work in the industry, which means the overall attractiveness of the industry. Overall industry kitni attractive hai. Second, which are the critical factors which can help to determine that brand success in that industry. Now, these are two different things. Industry might be great, sunrise industry doing very well, but maybe the brand that I am exploring might not be the best of brand. So I need to understand, which are the critical factors that can help me understand why that brand or a company would be successful in that industry. So that's very, very critical. And what we do here is we understand how big the opportunity size is. Is industry ki opportunity pie kitni badi hai? Can I, as an investor, get the first mover advantage if I get that business? Is this business too overcrowded? Sometimes you look at industry and too many players. And when there are too many players, what we need to also understand is is there a differentiated edge? Is that something which is existing in the market? Is that something which is not existing in the market? So all that is something we need to understand from the opportunity, point of view. And second is your growth prospect. Every investment trends that we do has to be done for future. Investment means that you're investing for the future, right? So when we invest for the future, what do we think? I don't think of today. I think of, what is going to remain constant maybe in the next, I would say 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, right? So when we look at investment, what you have to see is you need to act and think on a time horizon of years, not months, right? So future fit business, जो आपको लगता है आने वाले 5 साल में भी चलने वाले, 10 साल में भी चलने वाले. Ironically, last year when the pandemic had hit, all the K-12 schools, had started, closing and everything went online. We started getting inquiries for K-12. Ironically, it might look like because K-12 takes a big gestation time. You can't think of taking a K-12 and get going in the next month. आज ये नहीं हो सकता कि हमने एक brand आज select किया अगले महीने वो हमने खोल दिया. It is unlike retail, right? So it takes at least 1.5 years of planning, construction to open, one K-12 school. So a lot of inquiries started coming in because people knew this is not a business, this is not an industry that would sink. So we need to look at businesses which are there to remain in the future. Services, products which consumer is going to consume. 5 साल में, आने वाले साल में ये services consume होंगी. There might be temporary disruption in that, maybe a month, 6 months, 1 year, but these are all businesses which we all understand are future fit, which is very important. Demand and supply is something which is also very critical to be understood because some industries, might be volatile. And when I say demand and supply, like I said, do I have a differentiated product which I can give to my audience? That's very important to understand. And lastly is innovation. If you understand and if you're witnessing and observing how the market is moving, today, innovation is playing a very, very important role. Companies which are working on ongoing innovation, creativity, learning, improvement are the ones which are delivering a very distinct, differentiated product, differentiated solution, and a differentiated offering in terms of service. When you have that, your brand will always going to be relevant. So look at industries which are relevant in the current times. When I say relevant, it has to be relevant from the consumer point of view. And so that is something we need to look at. All the companies which are not relevant have shut their doors in the last 2 odd years. Third is your market assessment. So here we need to understand, a couple of things, which is absolutely, is this business new? One could be business itself, the industry. Second is new. One is the business itself, which means the brand is new. Second is the industry itself might be new. Third, what you need to understand is at what stage is that business at? Startup stage pe hai, growth stage pe hai, us stage pe hai jahan pe they've already penetrated in maybe all the markets. So stage of business is something which is very, very important to be understood. And when you have to understand, that, it becomes easy for you to see if it is the right business for your market. So where you also consider a lot of other things like a need gap, demographics, market segmentation. When I say need gap, one thing is very important to be understood, I was speaking to somebody, one of the investors, and he said, there was a pharmacy brand he was interested in. He said, in the location where I want to open, there are already many pharmacy brands. Would it be worthwhile to bring in another brand? Is it okay if I bring in another brand in the same location where there are already other players and all of them are doing well? So, and so what it means when I say need gap, it involves a lot of thinking, analysis of the current market offering to the extent, are they meeting the consumer needs? Now, this gap could be in the level of service. Maybe there's a brand in the market already existing, but there's a gap in the level of service. One, there could be a level, there could be a gap in the level of the product. It could be a gap in terms of the pricing which is being offered. So there can be these gaps. And if you think the brand that you want to bring into the market is a fit and which can close that gap, then go for it, right? So now going back to the example which I gave you, if I look at the 5th point, which is location real estate, the one rule, which is very, very easy and one never goes wrong. Anytime you want to open a brand in a market, understand who your competition are in that market, one. And second, what locations, these competition is doing well. When you know the competition's presence and the locations they're doing well, there is very small percentage of doubt, you would go wrong in that location because you have the competition, you know which market they're doing well. So your chances of doing well or success in that market is fairly large, right? Equally important is, I would say, regulations, and regulations are industry regulations, which are both center and state subject. And these typical regulations would mean your pharmacy license, drug license, as we call them. And every state has different requirements, for running 24 hours or the regular hours. Pharmacist requirement, what your regulations of your state say is something which is important to be understood. Equally important are liquor licenses, right? So maybe a Delhi liquor license policy is different to what Hyderabad, Karnataka. So every state has their own different regulations around these industries, including a lot of new industries which are coming in, which is even brewery. Brewery policies of every state are different. EV, electric vehicle policies of every state, regulations are different. So any industry that you want to get in, understand the regulations of your state. And now talking about competition, which is peer-to-peer, what is important to be understood is the competitive advantage, which I even pointed out last. Do I have a competitive advantage over the other brands in the business I'm looking at? Second, the penetration of the brand and also the performance of the company. So when you look at peer-to-peer, look at maybe some of the regional brands, look at some of the national brands, and look at the penetration performance of these brands in your industry, in your market, and peg that against the brand that you have selected. Third, what is also important to be understood is barrier to entry. This is very, very important. Barrier to entry का मतलब है कोई भी ऐसे issues या obstacles which can make it difficult for a new company to enter a given market, right? And typical these barrier to entry can be tech challenges. These can also be government regulations. It can also be issues or requirement which are related to licensing, patent. So all that is something which is very, very important to be understood. And sometimes when a city has a barrier to entry for a new brand, even the company or a brand that you select, they also go a little extra mile to help you, and they should have a go-to-market plan. So every time if that is there, understand what is go-to-market for the brand that you have selected and how they plan to create that impact in the market. And lastly is absolutely the offering which is given to the end consumer in your market, and how your product is different to the other competition which is prevailing in the market, right? So that's very important to understand. And lastly, we'll talk about the brand assessment. It is the brand diagnostic of the company that you finally selected. So not all franchise companies are same. This is important and underline that. So what you need to do is you need to do your own research, get everything I always say to understand about the company, the brand that you have to before you sign the agreement. And this includes things such as how long the company has been in the business. One. Second, what is the average rate of success of the franchisee? Second. Third, how long do franchisees stay on an average? So these are three important things that you must ask the brand. How long the company, but when I say how long the company, does not mean if it's a 40-year-old company, it's good. If it's a 5-year-old company, it's not good. But some credibility the company has established. Second, average success rate of partners who are franchisees. Second, and how long people stay in the system on an average. A lot of companies have franchise partners, they keep adding, but at the same speed, they also keep reducing their number of franchisees. I keep adding, 5 every month, but I maybe, getting rid of maybe 7, 8 every month. While that is a, some percentage of that churn rate is natural because a lot of agreements come to an end and locations might not do well. But if that churn is higher, that's something to be cautious about. Just because a franchisor is new does not mean it is not a great opportunity, but more you're able to take an informed decision. So when you talk about, the things that you must consider, these are 7 important things, which start from the credibility of the company, legacy of people, the commitment of the brand to their franchisees and to the stakeholders they are touching, to the community, they are touching, which includes the consumers equally. Second is the standardization, sustainability, which is very, very important. Any company that does not have a standard operating processes will not be able to scale. And if they don't have an SOP, they will not be able to replicate their systems. So sustainability is brought in by, standard operating processes, which every franchisee is trained on. Right? That's very, very important. And companies spends considerable time training each partner on that. Third is your operating cost and reinvestment. These are 2 areas. Spend enough time. Aapke operating kharche kya honge? When I say operating cost, you must understand also in each cost what the escalation is. Operating costs are typically your salaries, the staff that you're deploying, the rental cost of the product or the inventory which is being used. And equally to understand आपका annual उसमें escalation क्या होगा, अगर आपकी rented property है, हर साल कितना आपने extra उसमें rent देना है, proportionately आपका business कितना increase हो रहा है, proportionate to the cost that is increasing. That's very important. And equally, reinvestment is very, very important. And a lot of companies, brands, especially when the agreements are long-term, maybe it's a 30-year-old agreement, or a 15-year-old agreement, maybe companies, categories like K-12, long-term agreement. You don't sign an agreement for 5 years. They're long-term agreements that we sign. Or for reasons, if you're renewing the agreement, agar 5 saal ke baad aapka agreement khatam ho jata hai, aap renew karte hain us agreement ko. So that is also something that you need to understand. If you're renewing the agreement, what is the reinvestment cost which is needed, right? Margins and return on investment is again very, very important to understand. Having said that, you must also educate yourself on ROI, educate yourself on margins, so that you are able to ask the right questions from the company, the brand. When I say margins, there is no thumb rule of saying that this percentage of margin is good, 5% is good, or 10% is good, or 20 is good, or 30 is good. But margins also depend on the industry, one. Second, even on the subcategory. If I say retail may be har ek category ke alag margins hai. Even if I look at grocery, if I look at jewelry, all these businesses would have different margins. So margins would play on two things. Some businesses might have small margins, maybe a business like telecom, maybe a business like jewelry, but they play on volume, right? When I say volume, your jewelry volume value is high, not volume, sorry. The value of the product is high. If I talk about telecom, the percentage margin might be low, but the value of the product is high. So sometimes the margins are low, but the value is high. You're able to cover up your entire expenses, or also have enough profit coming out the business. The other is where your margins are low, but the volume is very big. Maybe in case of kirana stores, right? These businesses also operate on maybe a low margin, but what we're looking at is we're looking at volume. Maybe a business like Cloud Kitchen, small margins, but volume business. Food also, so Cloud Kitchen, one. So these are some things that you must consider when you look at margins. No same industry or category would have same margins. Every industry would work and play on these margins. Even if you have to do a comparison, do it apple to apple comparison, right? Similarly, on the ROI, which is return on investment, this is again proportionate to the life of that opportunity. Kitna bada uska life hai, uske hisab se aapka return on investment calculate hota hai. If that life of opportunity is say 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, typically your ROI ideally should come in 7 to 8 years time. I'm taking an example of maybe in hospital, a super specialty hospital, or a K-12 school, so to say, or a business, which requires a bigger infrastructure like a hotel. They also run these businesses. So your ROI typically would take anything between, 5 to 7 years of span. But if the business ROI is say 5 years time horizon, then ideal time is about anything between 2 to 3 years time that you get your entire investment back. Fifth is your legal, and here we talk about the agreements and conflict resolution, which is very, very important because India does not have any laws on franchising. Everything which becomes a part of the contract becomes an obligation between the two of you. So play, good and put a lot of substantial time when negotiating these agreements. Some clauses are flexible. Companies are flexible enough to support you, but there's some clauses which are not flexible, and that is something to do with maybe the goodwill of the brand, the positioning of the brand, that they would never negotiate on. Training and marketing support are another important aspect. And most of the times franchisees depend only on the company to do marketing, which is very, very, wrong notion. There are two sets of marketing which the companies, which any businesses would do. And when I talk about the company takes care of all national level marketing, regional level marketing, state level marketing, but any local store marketing, wherever your store is, uske 4-5 kilometer ke radius ki marketing is something which is entire responsibility of the franchisee. And as a thumb rule, 2% of your entire sales, jo bhi aapka total sales hota hai mahine ka, 2% of that sales is something that you should invest in marketing. And when I'm using the word invest, it means it is not an expense. Every marketing investment you would do would add on to your subscriber base. And this is something that you must do constantly, consistently, right? And training, again, apart from you as a franchisee or a partner, you should also have somebody in the family, in your friend circle, inner circle, who should also be taking this training along with you. Last time, I was on a webinar and somebody asked me if I can also have somebody in my family take that training so that I have somebody in my absence, if I'm not there, who understands the business. And a lot of people don't do that. And that's very, very important. Every time you do that, irrespective that person is legally on the agreement or not, but have somebody in the family always involved in the business. And lastly is, how the company, the brand is hedging that risk. every business today would come, whether you're doing your own business or you're taking a franchise business, that would come with some element of risk. But hedging of risk is very important, because when you take a franchise business, the business is tried, it is tested, so your chances of failure are low, right? So understand how the company is hedging the risks. And today, a lot of companies are coming with a lot of innovative models. They taking the entire stock back, they're giving some kind of minimum guarantees, they're doing a lot of good stock correction. Some companies have consignment models. So you don't have, so while they cannot take the entire risk from the business, but they would hedge the risk. For example, we launched a company from South yesterday, a very big brand called Fipola. They're into, meat. They do state-of-the-art outlets, and they're big number of outlets now in Chennai, Bangalore, Hyderabad. Already, I think they have been going at a very, very fast pace. Almost 2 outlets is what they're adding almost every month in the last about 4 or 5 months. So this company has for the first time launched a business model, which is franchisee-owned, company operated, where the company would take care of the entire operations. Franchisee is just a passive investor in the business, and he gets a minimum guarantee of the entire investment he does, and or a revenue share, whichever is higher. So you would have some kind of businesses, which come with a structure like that. But here also you need to understand, to what level your investment would be, to what level your engagement would be pre and post, or even during, the operations of the company. So they're good companies which are offering today a lot of attractive models, especially for people who have money, want to deploy that money, but do not have time to run the operations. But one thing is important to note, these investments are comparatively higher than the regular investments, typically upwards of 60-70 lakhs, going up to a couple of crores. You will not have a franchisee-owned company operated in a investment, for a small unit. जो 10-15 लाख की investment में ऐसे models viable नहीं होते हैं, because these businesses need to give you return, which means the company puts their corporate hours, man hours to run and operate. So that's very important. So this is what, friends, I wanted to share on this slide. And quickly, I'll take you on the next slide, where we'll talk about also the process which Franchise India follows. So this is the scientific proven process which everybody at Franchise India follows. All our teams all across India. We have our teams in 97 cities in India. And I'm sure I see a lot of you mentioning your cities also. All the cities which I see you, talking about, are where we already have our teams and our channel partners working very, very closely. With the example which I gave you of, one of the gentlemen who signed up a deal last week. In fact, that very day, I aligned him with one of my partners in that city. I told him I could go and meet with him, understand what he needs. And he was able to build that rapport, understand what he needed. And within the week, he was able to line up some meetings of brands within, the state of Karnataka, which he actually finalized on. So these are 4 stages, where we work with you. Our teams work with you very, very closely, starting from the information stage. Information stage would mean that I, as a advisor, as a doctor, whatever we may call, I need to have every bit of information about you so that I can help you decide what is right for you. But one thing is important, I can help you decide is important. I don't decide it for you, which means the decision finally is yours. I can only equip you with the information, with all the insights that you need, to buy a business. And that reminds me, a couple of days back, there was another big deal that we signed up, very recently with one of the leading chains, salon chains in the country. And the gentleman, before he came to us, he said, I've also seen, he named a couple of one brand. And I said, we know that company, but I would not recommend you going for that brand. But if you insist, we would still introduce you. But I gave him some insights. So my role was to give him insight, but decision-making was his. While finally he went ahead with something that he felt was right for him and what we had shown him, and not the brand which he initially came for. So the role that we play is that we want your monies to be safe. It's a very important, I would say, capital, friends, that you have in your life. And this might be the entire earning of your life or your entire saving of your life that you're putting in business. So at Franchise India, we take utmost responsibility to ensure that there is no wrong information which is given to you. So spend enough time through these 4 stages, starting from information, where we take entire information about you, what you need, and then we help you to evaluate the opportunity based on 4 fitments. And these are SOMF fit that you see on the screen, which means, S stands for strategic fit, which means your own experience, maybe the shop that you own, and you want to start a business there, and what would work in that business, something a team would work with you. It also includes operational fit, which means your own time involvement in the business. Not every business requires the same time involvement. And if you saw in the initial slide, it was time involvement in the business, but some businesses are too time involving. It might require the entire 8, 9, 10 hours of yours. Some of these businesses might require maybe 3 to 4 hours. Some of these businesses might require more time in the initial, say, 2-3 months of setting up, and maybe little less as you go. So based on the operational time that you have in the business, we would advise what would work for you. Third is M, which is market fit. What is right for your market? I was suggesting one investor I was speaking to, and I gave him some options. And because he also had a property, so equally we had to be very, very specific as to what can work on that property. And finally, we came to a conclusion, salons are good. So I asked him, how many salons are there in your vicinity? And almost every salon, he said, from Naturals, Toni & Guy, and every brand in South was around that. I said, great, it's good. So you don't have this brand. So already a market is created, right? So already a market is created. He was at a location which was surrounded by a lot of HNIs. And we suggested him a brand. That company did a recce, and they finalized within 5 days. Now today he signed up the brand. He has taken that because that was the right fitment for that market, because the industry, the category was doing well, but that particular brand was not present. So we went ahead, we searched that opportunity, made that connect, and brought it for him. And lastly is financial fit, which means the investment that you want to make in the business. That's very, very important. And equally, we take into consideration, what working capital you have. We would never advise that you put the entire investment initially. Rather, save some money for the working capital for ideally 6 months should be there with you. Third is negotiation, where our teams also work with you in organizing these tri-party meetings. And especially now when the markets are open, we are doing almost on an average every day, about 10 such tri-party meetings are being organized between our investors, our teams, and our companies. And apart from that, we also organize every month, every weekend, we have events which are happening in all the top 10 cities in India, and also a lot of tier 2 locations, including Vizag. Like this Saturday, we have a show which is happening in Nagpur. We have a show which is happening in Hyderabad. We have a show which is happening in Bangalore. We have a show which is happening in Chandigarh. So all these cities, on an average, you will have about 100 odd investors walking in, and all put together about 60 companies which are coming and speaking and communicating directly with these investors. So all that is something that is a part of our working. And we also work with you on deal structuring, which means not just information, but deal structuring is a very, very important aspect, where we get into in-depth understanding of what a deal would bring to you, the entire value proposition we work. And finally is assistance in the letter of intent signing and the agreement signing up. This is all what we do. Typically, for anybody who wants to start a business, the average timeline from the stage 1 to the stage 4 is anything between 30 days to 90 days is the average time, while some businesses can even be sooner. Like the example I gave you, there were 2 franchise partners I spoke, in fact, this month beginning, and we already closed in 15 days time, right? Because they already had a property which was on rent, and they never wanted to lose that opportunity, decided that very quickly, and they were exploring something in similar space. So next slide, please. So what you get, friends, as an Investor Advantage member with Franchise India, you get 1 hour of self-evaluation meeting, you get 1 hour of industry selection, you get 5 hours for 10 discovery days. So all the opportunities that we share with you, our teams will commit minimum of 5 hours in doing these 10 discovery days with 10 brands. Today also, I'm sitting in Delhi. In fact, all my teams in my office, they're all out doing meetings at the spots of the investors along with the brands. That's very, very important. Unless this is done, it is very difficult for you to analyze and for us to suggest what opportunities would work. So all that is something we work. Complimentary invitation is what you get to the webinars that we do. And we have a lot of webinars we do every day. So complimentary invitation to that. At the same time, physical shows. We have physical events that are happening now. Like I mentioned, Hyderabad, we have a big show which our media company also does. We did a big show in Bombay. This was Saturday and Sunday at the Bombay Exhibition Center. We had more than 5,000 people who walked to that show, and all the members, investors who walked into the show had come as paid investors, but everybody who becomes registered investors get complimentary invitations to this event. And we also give you 1 year of advisory. Complete 1 year is what we sign up, and entire 1 year advisory comes handy. 30 minutes of legal advice is also something which is a part of our offering. We have a separate legal team, which is Fan Legal, which works with you in vetting these agreements and giving you all the support till the signing of the agreement happens. And most important part is deal structuring. How do you structure the deal is where our teams come in. So we work with you to structure the deal, which sometimes take the highest number of man hours. Sometimes you spend little, man hours giving you options, but the highest man hours go in structuring of the deal, what is right. So that's where we come in. Second last is any kind of mediation that is required post the deal has happened. While Franchise India being a facilitator, a mediator, in getting the deal, we have limited scope, but you and a franchisor, if they need, that's where we can also step in. And lastly, any 10, prospective partners, franchisees who get registered from this session today will also get 30 minutes of one-to-one session with myself and Mr. Gaurav Maurya, who's the chairman of the company. And this can be done either physically where we are. I sit out of Delhi and Mr. Maurya also travels all across. So wherever you are, we can do that. Else, all these can also be done over a call or a Zoom meet. So what it takes to become a registered member is about 25,000 is a fee that we charge, because this is a fee for the time that we put in. This is a fee for the representation. This is a fee for the seriousness both of us will put, on the options that we look for you. And on any sign up that is done, that's a brokerage. So only 25,000 is what it takes to get registered, and all these services come at that cost. And brokerage is something which is taken at the end of the deal, where the deal has been transacted. So friends, I will request again, all of you keen to explore further, you can reach out to us. I will request Kanika if you can put maybe our email ID and also the hotline number, where our investors who have come in today can reach out to you. And also Kanika and her teams are also working the entire week. All of you friends who want to start a business, we will start aligning your meetings. Physical meetings is what I would recommend. And in case you are at distant location where we don't have our teams, we'll help you with Zoom calls and calls through Zoom. All right, a couple of questions. I see if there's something which I can answer. We have a question from Mr. Mukesh Kumar and looking for finance between couple of year. You're looking for something in the finance business is what I understand. We can help you with some fintech companies, if I understood that right. We have Ms. Purvi Jain and she says, I'm from Bangalore. Great. I see a lot of people from Bangalore. And friends, we have a show which is happening in Bangalore this Saturday. I will request if you can share, Kanika, details of the event in the chat box. And I would request friends, everybody from Hyderabad, Bangalore to also visit our events which are happening on Saturday and Sunday. You want to start a business in 6 months, Purvi, and you're too young. You must be in your early 20s is what I'm assuming. So absolutely. We also have a lot of young talent in our company, a lot of businesses which might require. So come and meet our teams in Bangalore. They would be able to advise you based on the investment you want to put in your interest area. And being young, we need to put a little bit of more emphasis, because I'm sure all the money you are investing would be funded by your parents. Absolutely. So we would work with you, Purvi. Please visit our event. And also I would like to speak to you if you wish to on our number. I'll request Kanika if we can have a call lined up. And we have Mr. Lakshay Madan. You're looking for a venture either in Delhi or Bombay, a food industry or retail industry. Absolutely, Lakshay ji, we have many, many options. I think these are two categories where we have the highest number of options coming in, both in food as well as in retail outlet. And rather, there's another company. We have not launched that company formally, but this is one brand. We were doing training of our teams yesterday, and first time they will come into franchising is a company called Just in Time. It's a brand which everybody out of Bombay would know. This is a premium mid luxury, not a luxury, but a mid to premium luxury brand of watches. And they're opening their outlets all across Maharashtra, and also a lot of cities in South, including Delhi. We can help you with this, and many other options, food, many options are available, Lakshay. So let's speak and see what can work. I see somebody without a name, Redmi, is the name I can read. You are from the real estate industry franchise. Are you looking for something in the real estate industry? Yes, we have one of the largest companies in real estate called Remax. That's the biggest, largest company which is present in 118 countries across the globe. And if that is what I've understood right, we would be able to guide you with a lot of information. The head office of Remax is also in New Delhi. And maybe we can have you set up a meeting with somebody in our Remax team that can explain you the business model. I hope I've tried and answered as much as I could. And friends, I would request all of you, we've put the details in the chat box. Our hotline number is there in the chat box. Kindly take a note of that. And you will also be reached by our teams led by Kanika for one-to-one call meetings that we will line up with our local advisors in your city. And we also have a show which is happening tomorrow, which is Just in Time, the brand I just talked about. This is 12 noon. All of you are keen to explore this opportunity can also click on this link, copy this link, because we're just getting over, and you can register yourself on on this link. And the hotline number 9717683838 is the number. You can call on this number. You can WhatsApp on this number for any information. So thank you so much, friends, for being with us. And I also see the Bangalore link there. In case you've not understood anything or need any further details, please feel free to get in touch. I will also put my own email ID. Anyone who wants to write to me can also do that. It's csonia@franchiseindia.in is my email ID. And I will also share a WhatsApp number that comes directly to me. You can WhatsApp also on this number. This is 8800493185. So thank you, friends, for being with us. And I wish you all the best for a great day ahead. And I look forward to working with all of you. Thank you. Good day.